You are a voice to your community, nation, and world. This is the Global Call.
Hi, welcome to Global Call. Today we have two guests lined up for you in outside of the studio interviews. The first girl you'll hear is Serena, and Serena's an exchange student from Australia, and she's studying in Seattle, Washington. And her story is, about divorce, about the things that, how she's dealt with that situation, how she's dealt with even just living with, walking through that area of her life and the healing process that has had to take place. And I think it's really good, really practical of how to walk in freedom out of these areas, what the natural things that you go on in you are, and you'll really enjoy her. And so let's watch Serena, and then we'll see Allison.
I'm Serena, and I'm an exchange student from Australia living in Seattle, and I love riding my bike and surfing.
So we're here for Global Call. That's the name of the show. And here with Serena. She's from Australia, right?
Yeah.
Where are you from in Australia?
I'm from Sydney, Australia.
Nice. How long have you lived in Seattle?
I've lived in Seattle only for 6 months now, so only new.
Yeah.
It's very fun.
Seattle is fun. Very fun. Thumbs up to Seattle. Yeah, thumbs up. So what, kind of tell your life story, Serena. Just go ahead and start. I get my nice coffee here.
Yes, well, as we said, I grew up in Australia, which was a lot of fun. Going to the beach, going surfing, doing all those kind of fun things in the hot weather. It's great, you should all visit.
I enjoyed it when I went there.
My whole life story. Well, I grew up and I had a really good childhood. We would do a lot of sports. We'd hang out as a family a lot. My family was really good.
Yeah.
But I kind of always had this sense in I guess in my family that something always just wasn't quite right. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I guess what this story kind of starts when I was about 20, and I found out that my dad had been having an affair for the last 13 years or so.
Wow.
With numerous different women. Mm-hmm. And so from then on, my parents separated. A couple of years later, they got a divorce, and
when you were after you were 20.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, which is a bit different, I think, because most people, a lot of younger children experience divorce, and it's not as common, I think,
when you're older.
Yeah, when you're older. Which, it has its pros and cons, because, you can leave the home, you're old enough to leave the home and live somewhere else, which is nice.
Yeah.
But when you're a young kid, I guess you can't always do that, so.
Yeah. So, at 20 years old,
mm-hmm.
you found this out, and how did that affect your life? Do you feel like it had effects on your life, or?
Well, it was kind of funny, because when it happened, firstly I wasn't surprised that it happened. For some reason, I just had this sense in my heart or whatever that I don't know, that my parents were going to get divorced. Like, sometimes I think maybe I sensed that my dad was having an affair, because I think kids are a lot smarter than we give them credit for, and
yeah.
Young people have a lot of intuition, I think, and they can sense things like that. So for a start, I wasn't surprised, and then it didn't seem to affect me for the first couple of years. But and I thought, I was like, wow, I just must be a wonderful, strong person to be able to withstand this, and because I'd seen many of my friends crumble, under divorce, and it really affect their life, and it didn't seem to affect me. But then I got a few years down the track, and I was working with homeless teenagers. I was a social youth worker, so working with a lot of young people.
In Australia?
Yeah, in Australia, that suffered from a lot of sexual abuse and drug addiction, and had come out of domestic violence situations. So I was working with these young people, and for some reason it kind of triggered in me a lot of stuff to do with my parents' divorce years after they got divorced.
Yeah.
So that I was looking into these young people's lives, and every single one of them the issue that they had, the drug addiction, the sexual abuse issue, the domestic violence, the self-confidence issues all stem from their upbringing and their family.
Wow.
And so it got me thinking a lot about my situation. And I was just actually thinking one day, I didn't feel sad, I didn't feel upset, I didn't feel like I had all these big issues or anything, but I just thought to myself, I wonder if my parents' divorce and the lead up to that as well, because just because when your parents get divorced, surely there's cracks and there's issues long before they get divorced.
Right.
So when I was working with these young people and seeing the effects their parents had on them, I kind of began to wonder that, well, maybe my parents' divorce and the way my parents treated me had an effect on me, and I just didn't
realize.
Yeah, exactly. So from then on, I decided that I would actually go to a counselor and actually, the term in my head, the term in my head that I had was I would just dig around and see what was there.
Yeah.
And sure enough, there was plenty there.
Yeah, it's not fun to find out.
No, it's not fun.
It's interesting because I think that's happened to me also in my own life, not necessarily through a divorce, but just through other issues, in your life, whether that's being abandoned by close friends or however it is. It's like each thing does affect you, and I think some people, which maybe it sounds like you're kind of one of those people that shove it down. And I'm like that too. Like, it's not even that I'm intentionally shoving it. I just think I'm stronger than that.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, it's all right, whatever. Yeah. But there's something wrong if you don't get hurt, like, and someone that you love, like, is like, turns their back on you,
Yeah. Well, it's the fact is it's going to happen.
Right.
It'll happen to everyone, no matter how much people love you. At some stage, they will let you down and they will turn their back on you. And
and at the same time, you still have to keep trust in future friendships and relationships, or it ruins those friendships and relationships.
Yeah,
it's a vicious cycle. So Serena, how did you deal with your parents and just all of that? What would be your suggestion for people maybe whose parents are going through a divorce, who have gone through a divorce, and kind of the effects that it plays in their life?
Okay. One of the suggestions I would say is that, well, I guess although it's something that's really, like, in Australia, in America, in a lot of countries, divorce is common. I think in Australia, 47% of marriages end in divorce. So
I think it's like around that here.
Yeah, kind of a similar figure. And so it's really common. I think that's why I thought it wouldn't be a big deal, because everyone got divorced. Like, half of marriages fail. But I think, for someone going through a divorce, just because it happens so often doesn't mean it's any less significant and any less painful. And I think that, and one thing I believe, and this is my own opinion, is that I don't think you can go through something like that and it not affect you, for a start.
That's true.
So, and I think, you really, I really had to make such a big effort to go out and get help, because I had always been the counselor, I had always been the help for someone else, working with young people, or even with my friends. I was the one that would always listen to them and listen to their feelings, and that was a great way for me to not talk about myself.
Right.
So it took a lot, it took everything in me to go and seek out a counselor, and then actually it's one thing to go talk to someone that's a stranger, but then to actually rely on a friend and talk to a friend about what I was going through, and
being vulnerable with people.
Exactly. And also just being okay with asking for help. I think I had a big problem with just saying, I actually need help. I need help.
Probably me too. I even still have a very hard time with that.
Yeah, so it actually took a year and a half from when I went through a lot of stages of depression and all that kind of stuff, and I had to take time off work, and I had to drop a few things out of my life to actually, to really make, in a way, make the most of that time that I was dealing with it, and to really, I didn't want to leave any stone unturned, and just make sure whatever was lurking inside of me, that it would, I would have been able to deal with it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's very good. It's very important.
So
social work. You worked a lot with different people, and domestic abuse and homeless and all that different stuff. I guess, do you have any interesting stories of people who maybe went through domestic abuse or, I know you're not allowed to tell individual stories, but,
well, I guess there were, I guess there was one girl and she was I guess a victim of sexual abuse from a really, really young age, and she I guess inherited a drug addiction from her mother, and
wow.
And she was really she suffered a mental illness and all that kind of stuff, and just a big knot of issues, and of course it all stemmed from her growing up, from being hurt by people that she trusted and should have been kind to her, and even her mother almost forcing her into a drug addiction. And so I think one of the things is that although her situation was so severe, there were just little bits of her situation that I could see in my own life. Like, I think, when you're dealing with people like that, it's the extremes of human behavior. Yeah. But there's still like a small remnant of that behavior in every single one of us.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
So what would you, how do you suggest that people move from, because obviously we all have things like that. I can think of things in my own life that, that I can see in even people I've helped throughout my life, and it's interesting how you can see patterns of different things in your life. And I think for me it's been obviously God's been a big issue, big he's been a big part of healing different areas in my life, and showing me the areas that need to be healed. And I know that a lot of people wonder, oh, well, how do I even know? Where do I even begin of what these issues are? Because I think for a lot of people, especially functioning people with, issues, because most of us just function through life, without even acknowledging them, but it's even asking God to reveal what those issues are inside of you, because sometimes you don't know. Why is it that I feel this need, for attention from guys, for instance? Was it, maybe because of a father didn't give enough love, or because of divorce, or whatever the situation is. But I think that's important too, that you ask God to reveal to you what those issues are, and then go through the process of dealing with them. And I think life is a process in general. Like, a lot of people think that you deal with something and then it's supposed to end, but really it's a lifelong process.
Yeah, and it really is.
And you can wake up one day and feel all the hurt over again because of something that happened, and you have to really deal with it, which isn't fun always.
I think that's really quite natural. Like, I am prepared now that, maybe when I get married or later on in life when I have children, surely some of these things are going to resurface again, and I'm going to deal with them maybe from a different angle, but I'll deal with them again. And I think, and I'm just okay with that. And I think just being, I sense a real freedom that what I've gone through is really normal. I think even though I went to counseling and I had depression at the time, I thought, oh, I'm a freak, I'm weird. But I think everyone does it, and I'm just really glad that I was able to do it well. I think I did it well, and I feel really, I feel really free from a lot of the patterns and behaviors that I had that I in a sense blame on or can trace back to the relationship I have with my parents and my parents' divorce.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with everybody too, that these kind of situations, they bring it up in you, and you choose if you're going to be a victim or if you're going to deal with the things that are presented, in your life.
So you just heard from Serena. You heard her story about her own life, about being a social worker, and the many challenges that presents. And so, as you just heard from her, even, to just allow yourself to go through the process of healing, whether it's a divorce, whether it's a situation of your parents that, in life, there's lots of things that affect us, but it's important to deal with them and allow ourselves to heal from those situations. And now we're going to watch Allison. Allison is her story. She's originally from Georgia in the United States and now also lives in Washington. And her story is just about death and how she processed the death of family members that were close to her and seeing the good in that. And so let's watch Allison.
Hi, my name is Allison. I just moved to Seattle from Georgia, and I love Georgia football, Broadway musicals, and to live my life like it's a movie.
We'll call. We have a guest with us today, Allison, and by way of Georgia, and we're here today in Seattle. And Allison, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So we're just going to talk today about her different issues of people who've died in her family and how she's dealt with that and situations like that. So, Allison, first of all, you're from Georgia.
Yes, I'm from Georgia. Grew up family with a couple of siblings and just had a good little happy life.
So, your aunt passed away at an early age.
Yeah, she was 22. She was killed in a car accident, and I was 10. And it was hard to deal with because I kind of just figured out what death was, and like how final it was.
So, what did that teach you about death? Did you realize right away what had happened, or?
It took probably right away. I kind of realized she was gone, and that she was never coming back, and that was hard. And I saw the sadness in, I've got a pretty large family, extended family. I saw the sadness in them, and at a young age kind of took on a responsibility to explain to my younger siblings what had happened.
Yeah.
So
you realized later on in life kind of the effect of losing someone you loved, what it did to you.
Right.
Yeah.
What it for me, it took away something. I didn't realize it at a younger age probably, but it took away probably some of my trust in other people in a weird way, because she was killed in a car accident. She wasn't driving, and so I blamed it on the person driving for the longest. And I didn't realize that till I got older, and so those were things that as I got older I learned to let go of.
Yeah. So what would you recommend for someone if they lost someone that they loved, or even are blaming a person that might have been responsible? Because I know lots of times there's situations where, I've had friends that, have been driving cars with people, like your aunt, that person died and they didn't, and they also live with the guilt for their whole life.
Right.
The person that was driving. But I don't know, what would you recommend to people who are going through maybe a situation where they've lost someone they love?
Most importantly would be to realize that there's a purpose in all of this, and even in bad things, as someone close to you dying, that in the end, whether the end of that plan is 3 days or 3 years, that in the end there's a reason for it that will lead to events that are better.
Mm-hmm.
As a whole, for me, it was kind of realizing that the bonding that caused my family to go through prepared them for unexpected events in the future, because my family pulled together and really understood the importance of family, so that when we had events in the future, we were more close-knit and had a better support system. So just kind of understanding that, and
and even just realizing how fragile life is, and that we're all only guaranteed today, and and I think even with your family that it's important to, it's easy to get in those petty arguments or just, fallouts with your parents or with your siblings or different people, but life can be short, so it definitely is good to
enjoy every day you have.
Yeah, with your family, and for sure. I've met people who, have been in disagreements with maybe their parents or something, and not talked to them for years, and they die, and they live with that for the rest of their life, that they had that severed relationship. And it's different than what you're talking about, but at the same time, death can bring on sudden things where you think, in 20 years, in 5 years, I'll get things right. And I think that's an important aspect, to cherish each day you have with someone, because today could be, you never know what day is your last with them.
It definitely helps you to kind of categorize what's important in life, and the arguments that you do have, are they really worth arguing over?
Yeah.
So.
As you just heard from Allison, of how she dealt with the death of her grandfather and of her aunt and of different people, really, as she even said, you can stand that everything works together for good,
And that is something that the Bible even says, that all things work together for good to those that love the Lord. And although death is never a fun thing, it is part of our lives. And it's important to remember the experiences that you've remembered with those that you've loved. I know in my own life, you hold the experiences of that person, the positive ones that bring back just such great memories, and you just cherish those things. But it's important to remember every day, as you go into your life and you might have grandparents or different people that you love, just to show them how much you love them now, because you don't know when's going to be their last day or even your own. We're not guaranteed tomorrow. And it's important to live every day as though, not in some depressing way, but to live every day as if it's your last, or it's somebody, your family member's life maybe that you don't want to make up with instantly because you're mad at them. But life's too short to hold grudges against people, or to not forgive them, or just not to have good, loving experiences with them. And so anyway, with that, Allison, even as Allison was talking, I encourage you to begin to just appreciate your life in a whole new way. Love the people around you. And even as Serena and Allison both shared their processes going through different things of what that's like, in a way they're both like someone died. If you have an image like Serena did of her dad as this perfect father, but then 13 years later, or when she's 20, she finds out for 13 years he's been having an affair, or even actual death. Both those things feel like something in you died that you don't know how to get back. But I encourage you, even just to begin to find your identity in God and who He created you to be, in the fulfillment of those things, and the fact that, even with Serena, God's going to bless her with an amazing husband. Even as that could maybe be a fear of, maybe my husband will be like my dad. God's restored her relationship with her dad, and He also will give her a husband that, isn't necessarily going to cheat on her. I don't know, but I know God gives us a hope, a future. He doesn't want those things to happen. And Serena is definitely believing for the fullness of life, and for a person who loves God and wants to seek after Him and all of that. So I just encourage you today that be of hope, that those things are in store for your life, and that God can turn around situations that were meant for evil, for good. As Serena even said about her own life, that it taught her that she can walk through anything and overcome it. And so in your life, you can be an overcomer of whatever situation presents itself in your life. And I think if you're grounded in the Lord and grounded with people around you that love you, it really helps you go through those situations. And that's even what Allison mentioned, that in her life, through the death of family members and different people, that it brought them closer together and made it closer knit. And we can use every situation in our life to produce good things. And so thank you for being with us today on Global Call, and we'll see you next time.
So if you ever saw the movie Once, anybody seen the movie Once? No? Okay, good. I see the hand holding.
Thank you.
I wrote this song after I saw the movie, and pretty much the movie goes like this. This man's playing guitar on the street, and this woman walks up to him and says, "What's that song about?" And he says, "A girl. Do you still love her?" No. You're lying. May I ask you, why did you love her and how did you know? May I ask you, did she give you affection and how did it show? Did your cheeks get red when you saw her? One horse do when I see you. Did your knees get weak when you probably too dumb to be scared. Sing a song for me, sing me a melody, sing me a tune all afternoon till the evening. Could I be too soon or maybe too late? But I'll ask you one more time, dear, if you would oblige and be so kind, I'd like to listen right here. Sing a song for me, sing me a melody, sing me a tune all afternoon till the evening.
There was a boy, a very strange, enchanted boy. They say he traveled